Right. Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I see you guys filtering in. While you are joining and getting yourself situated, I will just kind of let you know what we're doing here today. So the first part of today's time together, I will be walking through some materials around creator negotiation, but the most of our time, the priority time for today will be in Q&A. And so just to let you all know, I am recording now. I want to record this first section and then I'll turn the recording off so that we can share specifics and you can ask questions about your campaigns. But thank you for being here. Super excited. We do these once a month. If you want it to happen more frequently, let me know. If you want it to happen less frequently, let me know. If you have topics you want to talk about, let me know. Just to quickly introduce myself, I am Andrea. You saw my name in all the invites. I am the Chief Client Officer here at partnrUP.ai and am an influencer marketing expert. I am happy to help you get set up in our platform and to make sure you're getting the most out of your relationships with creators. So today's topic is something that is kind of messy. We're going to be focused on creator negotiations and how to make sure that those go smoothly, that you're getting what you need out of the relationship, but also that the creator feels valued and it's like they're a part of it, that they're not like commodified. And most importantly, that the campaigns run well. So let's get into it. And feel free to ask questions along the way as those come in. If they're relevant, then I'll go ahead and answer them. But if not, we'll save them until that section comes or for the Q&A. All right. So first off, I introduced myself already, but also that today's experts are you. We are all practitioners. This is a closed environment. You have to be a partnerUP client to join. And so you are doing the work. So you might have found things and tips that work for you that others can learn from. So I encourage you to share that as well. All right. So we've all heard the idea that negotiations can make or break our relationship with creators. And it's absolutely true. If negotiation goes sideways, the relationship will go sideways and you might lose an opportunity with the creator. But I wanted to ground this conversation in some data because I think there's a perception in the industry that all creator relationships need to be negotiated. And we went back and looked for the last 6 months across all of our clients and all of our campaigns, the majority of which our campaigns are negotiable campaigns, so negotiation can happen. Only 12% of the creators that we and our clients are working with right now actually were negotiated. And I think that's a really interesting stat. It's actually much smaller than I was expecting. I do think that if you're skewing more on the larger side of the creator spectrum, your percentage might be higher. We do have a lot of clients who work just with nano and micro, or for instance, with gifting, which wouldn't have a negotiation at all. But even still, I mean, this is, again, the rule of averages. But even still, I thought it was going to be larger. And so this is just a flag that if we set up our campaign structures strongly in the beginning with good quality like deliverables outlined and like lots of clarity on what we're wanting and what our goal is for the campaign and a strong value offer, then you can actually skip the negotiation step, which by the way is great. If you can skip it, everybody's happy, right? You get the content live faster, you can move on and know which content is working. All of your goals are reached sooner if you can skip negotiation. So just a strong reminder that you don't always have to negotiate. There are going to be creators who are wanting to work with you for exactly what you want to work with them for if you set up your offer to be strong from the beginning. All right. So once we are like, yeah, we're going to have to negotiate, um, I wanted to call out the three levers that I think most brands think about when you're starting to do a negotiation with a creator. And those are the things that we have in our campaign builder or our briefs. And they're also the things that our platform allows us to negotiate with. So it's like built into the platform today. So for rate, we can negotiate the actual cash value, if it's paid, how much money they're getting in their currency. You could also negotiate on the product. Sometimes brands don't think about this being in rate, but it absolutely has a value, especially if it's a high value product. If your product is $700, then that's a value that the creator is seeing. And they'll probably in their mind lump that into a rate. And then performance bonuses. So this could be commissions based on affiliates. It could be actual sales bonuses or other incentivized behaviors. So if you have negotiated with creators and said, hey, I want to give you a bonus if you get 500 clicks, or if you get X $500 worth of sales or more, there's a bonus or a scale of bonuses. This is becoming more and more prevalent, and it absolutely is like a trend or a discussion topic in the industry, especially on the brand side. I will say for the most part, creators really aren't, as a blanket statement, aren't as excited to work on performance bonuses than just cash. And that's kind of makes sense from a human nature perspective, like why work for something that isn't guaranteed versus guaranteed. But I have found from working with a lot of brands that creators are often excited if it's a cash plus. So we call these hybrid programs. Um, the type of program where you are ensuring there's at least a minimum guarantee for the creator for delivery of their content, which is valuable for the brand. But then if it performs well for the goals of the campaign, there can be additional value exchange on the back end. So those are the three levers for rate. In terms of deliverables, this is what you're buying from the creator. So the unique numbers of videos, or it could be images, the number of posts, potentially posts on multiple platforms, and then also exclusivity. So you're buying space in their feed. If they aren't posting for you, then they can't post for your competitors with exclusivity. Excuse me, if they are posting for you, they can't post for competitors. So you're essentially buying their real estate on either side of their go live date. And then in terms of usage, how the brand can use the content, either in your organic, in your paid strategy on Meta or TikTok or Instagram. Meta is Instagram, excuse me, Meta, TikTok, YouTube, etc. Or if you're allow listing, so you're putting money actually on the creator's handle to boost their content to their community or to other communities. And so these are the levers that I think most brands walk in thinking about in terms of, okay, I'm gonna negotiate with this creator. I wanted to also show what we see creators thinking about in terms of lever. And the good news here is that there are, oh, apologies. I also wanted to show that all three of these levers are like we have the product set up where you can negotiate these things right in product. So it's super easy. You can adjust the number of posts, you can adjust the usage terms, you can adjust the rate, you can use the optional message space to talk about things like timeline, etc. And so these are all really easy to negotiate right in platform. Okay. So from the creator's perspective, they don't actually think about it in the same way that we do from the brand side, which is where we want to know the rate and the deliverables and the usage. From the creator side, they're actually thinking about it with four different levers. They're thinking about their compensation and they're thinking about the effort. This is a job for them. How much effort will this take me? The opportunity that it presents for the creator, not just now, but in the future, and then the risks to their brand. And so we'll talk about a few of these that are additional to what we've already shown from the brand side levers. The good news here is that these are things that the brand doesn't think about often because it's there maybe isn't a dollar amount it's assigned to them. It's not a P&L or a line item that you can put in your budget, but can really sweeten the deal for the creator. It's good for you to be aware of. Compensation is all things that we've already spoke about. So cash, product. Creators think about compensation for usage. You're using their likeness, and so they would put usage rights, paid, and allow listing, which I bucketed together just because my slide was getting unwieldy. They think about this in the compensation lever. What am I getting paid? And then on the effort side, this is similar to where the brand thinks about deliverables, the number of unique videos, the numbers of posts. But the creator also thinks about things like creative freedom. Do I have the ability to bring in my own storytelling? How many rounds of approvals is the brand going to want? Do I have to talk from a script? Am I going to have to make 100 different little tiny edits because the brand has requirements? All of which is reasonable, right? Brands need to make sure the content is appropriately representing their brand, but creators also want to feel like they're a part of the process. So if you're negotiating with a brand that is saying, hey, we're going to give you a lot of creative freedom here. You can tell us how you want to make the content. We're going to be really conservative on edits in the back end. That makes it a sweeter opportunity for them. They're more willing to work with a brand. Also, familiarity. If a creator knows your brand already, then it's going to be easier for them to create content for your brand. And so that is also a sweetener for the relationship. If it's something that they have used in the past, or they have seen their friends and family use it, or they've used a product in the category, they're going to already know how to talk about it. They're going to already understand the benefits versus a pitch where they maybe aren't familiar with the product category at all. And so they have to kind of educate themselves and spend time to make sure that they are uh, really nailing the benefits. Okay, creators also think about opportunity. This is where performance bonus lives in a creator's head. And I think brands think that this would live in rate or compensation, but a creator is seeing performance bonuses as not a guarantee. They're thinking, it really could not happen. And so that's more of like a future if an opportunity. Even if they have a lot of confidence in themselves, they're still putting it in this bucket of like, it's not necessarily compensation. It's a future thing that could happen. But that's a absolutely positive thing in the relationship, as long as everything else lines up. But other things that the creator thinks about that the brand can use in negotiation are things like future work. Is this going to lead to long-term or even just an additional campaign? Also, is this work going to lead me to get other work in the category or just with other brands who are going to see I can highlight that I worked with XYZ brand. And so this other brand might want to work for me. So that is future work. Also, PR, is the brand going to take on some lift of promoting the creator? So lots of, especially depending on the creator size, there might be brands who go the extra mile and put really kind of like more traditional PR campaigns around their creator campaigns. Are you doing press releases? Are you doing events that they're being invited to? Is the brand calling the creator out in their own organic with like a thank you? Things that aren't sometimes are like no money on behalf of the brand, like, hey, we're going to post a thank you to the creator, not just repost the content, is a pretty easy ask on the brand side, but could be really, really helpful at specific creator tiers. Um, and then social credibility. I talked about this a little bit. So, especially at the lower end of creators, they're maybe just getting started, and one brand deal could legitimize them as a creator. And so, is it an opportunity for them to get the credit for having worked with a brand? This works into the brand's benefit if you are an anchor in specific vertical, or if you're just a well-known brand, or you have a cult following, things that the creator is going to be like, yeah, I worked with that brand. That's going to work into your benefit in the negotiation. And then the things that are going to work either to the benefit or the detriment in the brand, in the negotiation on the brand's part, is risk. And so from the creator's standpoint, exclusivity is a risk. So if I'm not able to post or to work with other brands or competitors, then it's opportunity risk, right? I can't, I'm losing an opportunity. Also, the brand's reputation. If you're not a leader in the space, if you have no reputation, that can sometimes be seen as a risk. Or if there's any stigma or like reputational challenges in the brand's history, that can make the creator maybe not want to work with the brand, or to require more cash compensation or fewer deliverables, etc. Community alignment. This is really important. So if the creator knows your product, loves your product, uses the product, but it doesn't fit with the niche that they're cultivating in their community, that could be a risk for them. So if they are a DIY creator, they always talk about home upkeep, and you are a pool noodle company, that could maybe fit if they're renovating a pool, right? But if they're renovating an apartment, for instance, and you're a pool noodle company, and you're like, yeah, go on vacation and use my pool noodle, that's going to feel inauthentic to the creator's community. And that's going to be a risk to the creator. Like, I don't really want to work with this brand. And then the last one is timeline. If you have an incredibly short timeline, or if you have an incredibly long timeline. So we have had creators work with brands who the brand has a long, like, for instance, legal review process. Or if it's a regulated product, maybe they have like a medical regulated, they have like a medical team that has to review it. All those things take time. And now the creator is juggling this collaboration for much longer than they were hoping to. And so that is also a risk. Something to call out in terms of these creator side perspectives on negotiation risks, because every brand can use these to your advantage. So if you have weaknesses in some areas, you can compensate in other areas, and you could say that up front, or as a part of the back and forth negotiation. So taking the example of the DIY home brand company, or the DIY creator and the pool noodle company. Um, if that is not a perfect fit for their community, but you are going to, for instance, ask them to make content but not post, or maybe they're going to create 2 reels and post one, and then the other one is going to be production only, or UGC only content. For whatever reason, you love this creator, maybe you like their style, maybe they are a customer, they like love your product, and so they can talk about it really well, but it doesn't make sense for them to post in their community. Maybe you're going to use it in paid. So you can increase your paid allocation. You can increase the number of deliverables, and then that will counteract the creator's concern about risk, which is that she doesn't want to alienate her community. So that's an example. There are literally hundreds of these that you could do if you find yourself in a state of negotiation. And because that can be overwhelming, I did lay out some best practices by creator tiers. So things that are the value drivers for each tiers are significantly different. And I think that's important to call out. And so I have this matrix via clear brand alignment and unclear brand alignment. A lot of times it feels obvious, like, oh, why would I work with a creator that doesn't have clear brand alignment? But there are times when that would make sense. And so I'll walk you through. So at the smallest creator tier, nanos and micros, let's say under 100,000 followers total, they're just starting to build their brand as a creator. And so the things that are super important to them are future opportunities and potential PR. Cash is also important to them. They might be doing this as a side hustle or an opportunity they're hoping they can quit their full-time job, but they're not living on this yet. So cash is important. I would say cash is important in every instance, up and down. But this tier of creator is going to put an overemphasis on the ability to have stable work, so multiple continuous future opportunities with the brand, or to work with brands that they can use for social credit or for PR. If also at the lower end of this nano, there is some room to work with creators who are not like a clear brand alignment. And that's because typically at nano, creators have not yet niched down. So they haven't yet carved out their lane within the creator ecosystem. And one collaboration with one brand could actually solidify that for them. And so if you have creators who are kind of on the outsides of what you think is a perfect target in the nano and micro space, usually it's a fairly low investment from the brand standpoint to test that. And those have been some of the like really successful partnerships that I've seen at the micro and the nano space. So not something that you need to like just stay away from completely in the nano and the micro space. I would say for people, if you're like pitching this to a creator, they're coming to you, they want to work with you, most likely for the cash compensation at that level. And it doesn't have to be all that much. So don't like think like, oh my goodness, that's a huge budget item. Why would we test that? Sometimes it could be a couple $100 and you could find you get a really good piece of content. So a little bit more of like pilot or testing in that space. At the mid tier, these creators are really hustling. And so they likely still are not doing this full time at that level, but they're very busy. So they're large enough that they have a lot of brand deals that they're juggling. They're also juggling their work and life responsibilities. And so the things that they are going to value are just ease. Is this an easy brand? I know it, so familiarity really helps here, but also creative freedom. Is this going to be a brand that I know I can shoot and I can tell my story and they're going to be excited about my content and they're not going to nitpick on my content bunch of different rounds. And I can have the opportunity to showcase what I think I'm really good at and why I enjoy doing this. And so that's something you can really lean in on the mid. In terms of creators who are not clearly brand aligned in mid, unless you have a strategist like myself or others helping and has a vision here, I would say like stay away from this. They're probably like too costly for not enough alignment, and you're probably purchasing lower on community. And so unless you're really doing like dark ads or really looking for a very specific style of content that a creator can give you, I would shy away from unaligned uh, creator communities at the mid and also the micro level. At the micro level, things that really matter to them, I have exclusivity here, not that they want to get exclusive with you, but that if you're requiring exclusivity, this is a big turnoff for them because they have a lot of brand opportunities at this level. They probably are starting to work as a creator full time. And so they have a content calendar that they're working against. If you have long exclusivity periods, that could be something that they just can't work around. I don't see this being a deal breaker for very many brands, but it is worth calling out. Um, Also, brand reputation. Again, they have options at this level, so they can choose to just say no to a brand if they're not interested in working with you, or if there's been any kind of challenges in the brand's history, or if it's just not a category that they are interested in associating with the persona that they're creating in public in their channels. And so the further down you go, it's less about opportunity and more about risk mitigation. And so in that macro level, we're thinking about how do I keep the success that I've gotten. I have a really strong following. I have really high engagement. I have brand deals coming in. I don't necessarily want to put any of that at risk. And so really thinking about that when they're in the negotiation with the brand. And then at the mega level, um, this is the main thing. Like they're wanting to keep the momentum, mostly not doing a ton of risky things here. I am going to call out unclear brand alignment in the mega space because there's something really interesting as like a reverse bell curve here because at the mega level, you can sometimes find really interesting, unexpected connections because their reach is so wide that can be really successful. But it has to be really thoughtful and strategic, and there needs to be a very clear story that can be told, and usually is a long-term play. You're going to need to introduce your brand to their community and probably have multiple messagings to make the like the community understand why this matters. We have had several of these in our history on our agency business side. Some creators that just didn't seem to make sense, but on the surface, right? You just go and look at the profile. But something about their history, their interests, where they're going, a particular content shooting style or a storyline, something happening in their life, thinking about like life state, life cycle, like if they're getting ready to enter like starting a family, that can be sometimes times for pivots, things like that, where you can get really interesting. But again, from the top to the bottom, we're talking about larger investments from the brand side. Okay, I know a big question, and I saw this come through, was like related to rates. So how much should we be paying creators? And so we have another benchmark. We have a knowledge-based article that has standard rates at different creator tiers. I'll include that in the follow-up. But in terms of like, if you can't align on specific rates, and you've already used all the other levers that you have that we've talked about to sweeten the deal or to offset risk, then there are kind of best practices of when you should probably just walk away. And so these do differ depending on the rates, which is generally directionally with the tier or how large the creators that you're working with, though not always. So in terms of the lower end of the spectrum, um, if you're within 20% of the offer, at $500 or under, it's probably not worth the negotiation. At that point, the cost of the back and forth is probably not going to save you the actual savings on the negotiation. So if we are within 20%, just accept and move on. Not move on, but accept and start the relationship, start the collaboration. If it's over 20%, between 20 and 40%, you could counter again using one of the levers that we talked about, not just our brand side levers, but our creator side levers as well. And we would recommend that you do this 1 or 2 times. If after going back and forth and really pitching on why you think the creator should work for you and your brand, you still are not within 20% at this level, probably just after one, is probably time to just walk away. And you can see that percentage gets smaller. Obviously, you got larger rates, and so a smaller rate on 15,000 is a larger dollar amount. You can see that, at the 15,000 or more, if you're within 5%, it's probably worth it. You're not gonna like negotiate any further on, and you might do damage to the relationship to continue to do that. So if you really want them, they're over 15,000, if you're within 5%, the best practice there is to accept them. And then the counter, if you're within the 5 to 15% range. I saw some questions come through on that, and that actually is the last slide that I have. And so I'm actually going to turn off the recording now so that we can create the space for people to ask questions in context. If you are watching this on recording, we invite you to join us next time so you get the benefit of this Q&A. And I'll go ahead and turn off the recording now. Hang on just a second.